Hey y'all, I have a lot of things in my mind, and I'll be honest, I've tried to make this video 2 or 3 different times, and it's a tough topic, and it's kind of hard to do it justice. So I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet on this one, hopefully. I've recently come to a realization of the full definition of racism. I've always in the past thought of racism as a very angry, antagonistic, not just a mindset, but I've always thought of it as aggressive acts towards a particular race. Not necessarily, putting your hands on somebody, but the words that you say and the attitudes that you project towards them, as being just a very hate-filled thing. And I'm seeing a lot of that on Facebook, that racism is hate and racism is this, that, and the other now. And because of that definition going around, because so many people believe that racism is all about hate and hatred and just this vicious thing, there are a lot of people that are in denial about racism even being an issue, because they're just not seeing that kind of hate towards a particular race in their circle. However, sorry, the flies are just horrible this year. It tickles. However, just like all rectangles are not squares, but all squares are rectangles. In case you're not following what I'm saying there, never thought about it before, rectangles are four-sided figures that have 90-degree angles. They have 4 corners, 4 sides, 4 corners, and those corners are at 90-degree angles. That's a rectangle. Squares have 4 sides, 4 corners that are at 90-degree angles, and every side is equal. All sides of a square are equal. They have the same length. So you can make the statement that all squares are rectangles because all squares have 4 sides, 4 corners at 90 degrees. They're a rectangle. But you cannot make the reverse statement. You cannot say that all rectangles are squares because all rectangles do not have equal sides. Some rectangles have longer sides than others. So just like you can say that all squares are rectangles but not all rectangles are squares, I think we need to understand, and I've recently come to that realization from seeing so many heartbreaking, grievous things on Facebook that just truly just makes me want to sit and weep and cry when I see the way people are interacting with one another. All vicious, mean, hateful acts of violence, hateful words, insults, degrading comments that are directed to a person because of their race, all of those things are racism. But not all racism is hate-filled. And what I mean by that is that, the definition of racism, if you Google it and look it up, you'll see there's the first definition that says it's prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism toward a particular race based on the fact that this person's race is superior to that person's race. But there's another definition that says it's a belief that a particular race of people have certain qualities, certain characteristics, certain abilities just because they're of that race. And especially if you're viewing that from the point of one race being superior or inferior to the other. But it's just a belief. And see, that's where it's coming down. A lot of people are not seeing the vicious, hate-filled, horrible stuff that are, spoken out against so much lately. People aren't seeing that in their life, and they're not thinking that racism is such an issue. But they're forgetting the fact that just like all rectangles are not squares, all racism is not an outright vicious, hate-filled attack on somebody. And to be honest with you, we are so surrounded by it and so comfortable with it I don't think it's ever going to really disappear completely. The hate-filled, horrible, attacks on people definitely need to disappear. But there's so much that we're steeped in that racism is just like a generalization. And I can't stand generalizations anyway. And sometimes, you make a joke or something and, you have to laugh because it's funny. You can't go through like getting offended at everything. But the truth is that we are surrounded by generalizations. And if you follow me much on Facebook, you know that I can't stand them. If you're one that I got bent out of shape about a couple of years ago was, this one meme that said, if you're a real woman, real women do this. Real women can hunt. Real women can shoot a gun. Real women can change a tire. Real women can whatever. And real women root for the Georgia Bulldogs. Okay, it's a joke. It was a joke going around talking about, how wonderful these women are that live in the South and can do all these things. Well, that's great. But by saying that real women do these things, then you're also implying that women who don't do that aren't real women. It's offensive. Joe Biden recently with his comment, if you have trouble deciding on who, to vote for me, then you ain't black. I got flaming hot mad about that. And I'm white, but I got mad about that. It's like, how dare you say something like that? So there are comments that are around us all the time that trigger us, and we're like, that's offensive. But there are others that we pass off and we just kind of joke, and we know it wasn't meant offensively, so we don't take it with offense and we just laugh it off and move on. But technically, if you want to get right down to it, it's racism, and it's not just one race or another. There's one going around a lot on Facebook, I'm white, but I'm not paid $300 for a Yeti cooler white. Well, it's funny. People laugh about it. People share it. And if you shared it, I'm not saying anything negative about you sharing it. It's funny. But at the same time, you just generalized a whole bunch of people based on their race. And it is a racist comment. Now, was it hate-filled? No. It wasn't hate-filled. It wasn't, not for 1 minute do I believe that the people that shared that are going to turn around and come attack me because I'm white, or think less of me because I'm white. And really, if you had a conversation with them, anybody that knows me knows I'm not going to spend $300 on a Yeti cooler. Just not. So the people that made that joke and passed that meme around, I don't believe they're antagonistic towards me as a white person, or towards themselves as a white person. But technically, if you want to get down to it, it's a racist joke. And we're comfortable with so many things, and we laugh at the sitcoms where people are putting each other down and ooh, burn, and just all that kind of stuff. And we laugh about stuff, and we laugh at insults, and we laugh at, derogatory remarks. We're surrounded by it everywhere. So I don't know that racism is ever going to go completely away. What does need to go away is the hate. The people that are hating and hurting and discriminating in a negative way against people just because of their race. It's got to stop. Yeah, well, that's just all I had really to say. Is I just wanted to point out that, when you're hearing people saying that racism is an issue and racism needs to stop and racism this, that, and you're like, what are you talking about? Get off of it. It's not that big of a problem. You got to understand that racism is not just those angry, mean, hate-filled things. Just like all rectangles are not squares, but all squares are rectangles. Okay? Not all racist things are hate-filled. And just because you're not seeing a lot of hate-filled meanness towards black people does not mean that racism is not a problem. You're not seeing the hate-filled kind of racism, but there is, a lot of stigmas, a lot of stereotypes, a lot of things. And honestly, there's a lot of my black friends that will share things about their black mamas. And if you were raised up in a black household, then this, that, and the other. And that's, a generalization about black people. Technically, if you want to get down to the definition of it, it's racism. Okay, is it offensive? To some people, yes, and to other people, no. But technically it's racism, and we do have a lot of it. And there are some people, or a lot of people, that are dealing with that kind of belief system, that all black people this and all black people that, and it's causing a negative view of them, because you know, it might be funny that you say something about, you know, if you grew up with a black mama, you know this and that. Well, okay, we can accept that because we laugh about it and move on, and there, you know, there might be some truth in it, there might not, because you know, everybody isn't raised the same. So we just kind of laugh it off and we become numb to it. But the next step after that is a generalization about, you know, all white people have this characteristic or that characteristic, and we start inching towards negative characteristics, and it becomes a belief. Now, you might not be acting out on it, you might not be treating them any differently because of it, but you know, deep down inside, some people do have a belief that, you know, clearly, I mean, look at society. I read about one person, or maybe it was a video I watched, I can't remember right now because I've seen so much and heard so much, but there was a woman who was talking about her husband, and I believe she was a white woman, she had a black husband, and she was talking about her husband being so wonderful and sweet and kind and caring to her and their children, and just really talking about, you know, the positive characteristics of this man. And she said, and then this man went to talk about her husband, this wonderful man went to get some gas in his car, and when he pulled up to the gas station, there was a white woman on the other side of the pump who was pumping gas, and she got to acting nervous and, you know, disturbed, and called the police, you know, drove off after getting her gas to the other side of the parking lot or whatever, and called the police, and the police came and started questioning this man. And you know, because this woman had called in because he fit a description of someone who had committed a crime in that area just moments before, and so they were suspecting him because this woman got nervous because it happened to be a black man standing. Now, did they say, well, sir, you are, you know, a black man of this particular height, wearing this particular clothing, driving this particular car, you know, and really pin down the fact that he fit the description? No, just the fact that she was a black man. And they were detaining him and ready to take him in for questioning and possibly arrest him just because he was a black man that pulled up, and this white woman on the other side of the pump had gotten nervous because, oh, a black man pulled up. He didn't fit any of the characteristics. He had a car seat in his car, for crying out loud. I mean, you can tell he's a family man based on certain things. Not that all people who have car seats are fine, upstanding citizens, but, I mean, he wasn't fitting the description of this kind of person that they were looking for. The fact that he was black, and they were ready to take him in for questioning, and another person who happened to be white stepped up and said, excuse me, but I happened to see him come up and he was coming from that direction, not this direction. There's no way he's the person that you're talking about. And because another person stepped up and gave witness, then they let the man go. That kind of thing shouldn't happen. Just because of the color of your skin, you're automatically a suspect. It shouldn't happen. Now, was this woman who was pumping gas spewing hate-filled words at the man? No. Was she throwing rocks at the man? No. Did she attack the man physically? No. But she had a belief that black people, black men specifically, you know, her beliefs made her panic over something that she had no business panicking over. There was no danger. There was nothing, you know? And it's very easy to go from ha 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 laughing at a joke to, well, you know, that's kind of true. And you get a lot more, you become numb to it through jokes, and then you become okay with it through comments, and then before you know it, it seeps into your belief system, and then you start acting on belief system. And this woman, she might not have any hatred towards black people, but somewhere in her mindset, there was a fear based on an assumption, based on a belief, and it caused problems for this man, and he should never have had that problem. And I've seen story after story after story like that. I have heard people that I know personally giving testimony to it. I have seen it watching videos, reading posts. And do some people exaggerate? Sure. Do some people assume that it was racism when really it was something else? Sure. But not everybody. Not all of them. So, I don't know. This ended up being longer than I wanted it to be, but I just felt like I needed to point out the fact that when you're hearing people say racism and you're thinking, no, it's not a problem. Racism is more than just the hate-filled, antagonistic attacks. Racism is anything that is a belief that one group of people is a certain way. And I can't stand generalizations in any way. I don't like those posts that say, you know, if you're a real mom, you do this, that, and the other. Or if you're a real dad, you do this, that, and the other. Well, you know what? Not every mom and every dad do the same thing. Not all moms breastfeed. Not all moms bake cookies. Not all dads have time to play baseball in the backyard every Saturday. But that doesn't mean they're not good moms and dads. Okay? And you can't just assume that just because someone's a mom, they're just this wonderful, caring, kind person. You know? Not necessarily. There's a lot of sorry mamas out there that give birth to somebody and then never go about them again. You know, there's a lot of deadbeat dads out there that they want to make the baby all right, but then they don't want to hang around and take care of the baby. Just because you are a mom doesn't mean you're a wonderful person. Men and women. Lord, I'm tired of the comments about it. There's one that goes around on Facebook that says, you know, how many of you can really truly share this, that you're a woman and you can change the oil and change a flat tire? Are you seriously assuming that just because I'm a woman I can't do those things? Well, I'll be honest with you, I can't do those things, but it's not because I'm a woman, it's because I've never taken the time to learn. I can do whatever I choose to learn to do. Now, there's physical abilities that are different. Men and women are physically built differently. They have different strengths in different areas of their bodies, and so it is highly likely that there is something physically that a man can do that I can't do. But intellectually, no. Those things, I don't like them. Now, do I attack the person who posted them? No, because they were just trying to spread a little laughter and fun. But honestly, somebody along the line really feels that way, or they wouldn't have created it. You know? Same thing about the dumb blonde jokes. Come on, just because of the color of somebody's hair, you're going to assume that they're dumb? It's ridiculous. And there are jokes about race. Anyway, every bit of racism is not a hateful, mean, attacking kind. Sometimes it's just a nervousness, it's a wariness, it's a, oh, they're different than me, I don't want to be around them, or that kind of a thing. And that's the kind of thing that's got to stop, in addition to the outright vicious attacks out of anger and hate. So, I don't know, just food for thought, something to think about, you know. It kind of clicked with me recently, you know, not all racism is hate-filled and angry and easily recognizable that way. Some of it's a little harder to recognize, but it is there and it is a problem and it needs to stop. So, that's the way I see it. Y'all have a great